Well, I think the tariffs are necessary. Like I don't know if there was any way that we could put pressure on foreign governments, especially like you look at Australia or a lot of these small countries. They're absolutely taking advantage of the United States. And I don't want to make Canada a 51st state because, well, we have enough Indians in our country, so we don't need an Indian state. But I will say, that's a joke. But it's got its own problems. It does. Look at Brampton. But at the same time, it's like the tariffs themselves are a temporary pain that we must endure in order to recover a lot of our discrepancies in the trade war. So I don't know anyone with a mind, either left or the right, that are against these that actually understand economics. I never met someone that was like, even lefties that I know, unless they're like deranged lefties, but they're like, yeah, this is kind of.
So most of them.
Well, like, yeah, lefties I know but the ones that are like well educated, like that actually are, actual engineers, not the engineers that we're importing, but the actual engineers, thought leaders in their fields are like, this is pretty unbalanced what's been happening, especially with some of these smaller Western countries. We're providing their military aid, their support. We're spending so much of our own money, unrealized payments that's not even included in just the money we're losing in the trade deficit. But maybe Americans should wake up too. Maybe we shouldn't have shipped all of our production, our processing, and our development to every other country. Like maybe it wasn't a good idea that everything's made outside of our country. Like maybe people need to realize that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but I don't. This is another conversation that we've had multiple times here. I'm not sure that there's going to be a great onshoring, right? Like the cost of doing, making things overseas, especially in places like India, China, it's going to remain cheaper because unions, regulation, et cetera, here in the United States, the cost of living, you have to pay people significantly more to make whatever it is that you're making. Whereas in India, you have so many, there's 1 point whatever billion people in India. So they'll work for significantly less. They have a way lower standard of living. The cost of living over there is significantly less, so you can get away with it. So I don't imagine that the tariffs are going to incentivize a massive onshoring. There will be some companies that open new production facilities, but I don't think that it's going to be some kind of big getting all the jobs back the way that some people seem to have hopes for.
Shouldn't we try though?
I'm certainly not against the idea of trying to. I mean, I would like to see more effort put into deregulation and more effort into controlling unions, because I think those two things would be better to incentivize production of products here in the U.S. I think that getting rid of EPA laws, getting rid of a lot of organized labor stuff, because organized labor is not particularly necessary nowadays the way that it was 100 years ago, 75 years ago. So yeah, I'm totally on board with your point. I just don't think that the tariffs are going to do what.
Well, it's hard when we're only in power for 4 years too.
Yep.
Like we're not able to think generationally. We only think in terms of an election cycles, and that's why we never really progress in any meaningful way.
That's the exact reason why we have the national debt that we do. The 36 or whatever now $1 trillion debt that we have, and that's looming. And you see the results in the bond market last week. The bond sales was really, really soft. These things are coming, and they're not getting fixed by any administration, because it's much easier to kick the can down the road. If it doesn't happen during my administration, then it's fine. When in reality, it's all of the administrations that have done nothing in the past 40 or whatever years.
It's the uniparty. They love shipping jobs.
100%.
Like genuinely, we will not see a full economic recovery unless we do three things that I believe. We have to punish companies who are shipping jobs and shipping production overseas. We have to find a punishment. Like, hey, you want to do this, we're going to make it cost the same as doing it here, or cost more. Basically, there has to be a punishment for companies, because this is this whole like crony capitalism thing. When capitalism doesn't benefit the country, then I'm going to sound like a far lefty here, but like when you start just benefiting a few billionaires, a few families, like when you see the we talked about it last time I was here, like the Walton family, or when you see people offering you the cheapest products, everything's foreign, you pay your employees nothing, and you're ranking in $40-50 billion each a year, you got to ask yourself the question, do we want a country where the economy helps a select few? Not only is that bad for us in general, that also leads to the rise in far left communist ideas. It actually starts leading into a far left push in young people who realize, what's the solution to this? Oh, communism. Let's take back the means of production. So I think it's dangerous. We have to punish companies. Two, we got to get rid of some of these trade agreements. We need to not make it easier to ship jobs overseas. It shouldn't be so easy. And three, we've got to put a stop to legal immigration. Like, you cannot, like, I remind people, I have a personal vendetta against Indian H-1B workers because one almost killed me. I talked.
Wait, what?
They almost killed me. I literally had like a mini heart attack from medication they gave me, and I went to the hospital, and they told me it was a lethal amount of opiates when I broke my foot, and I wasn't even supposed to be on opiates, and it was a lethal amount. And they were surprised I didn't die, and it was an Indian who Australia let into Australia, and then I looked up and I found out they weren't holding Australian doctors to have the same credentialing and the bar licensing as the Australian doctors. And I was like, dude, I almost died. I have a kid.
Medical malpractice.
I almost died.
Medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death in the United States.
After what? Heart disease is number one.
Medical malpractice. Yeah, but that was avoidable.
Heart disease and cancer.
Yeah.
I think the important thing to understand though is that heart disease is typically just age. So when we say like people die of heart disease, like yes, when they're very old, your heart.
Same thing with cancer as well.
Right, and so that means that the actual first cause of human death is malpractice.
Probably, yeah.
That's crazy.
That is wild.
And there are people there was someone that I was talking to on the internet the other day, and they were saying, oh, what we should do is we should make sure that people can afford medical school and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I don't want more people going to medical school.
Yeah.
Right now, it's the third leading cause of death. I want the best people going to medical school. I don't want it to be easier to get into medical school. I want it to be harder to get into medical school. So that way the people that are graduating medical school are actually qualified. Don't make it easier. Don't give people more money. That's a terrible idea. That will end up with more people dying.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.